Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Moving Detectives team here with another episode of the Real Advice podcast. I am very, very excited to welcome this week's guest to the podcast. She's well known in the real estate world for her social media presence and marketing and real estate knowledge. She's well known and her brand resonates both with consumers and realtors alike. Beyond her real estate career, she is a local fitness instructor, which just really shows her dedication to wellness and also community involvement. Please join me in welcoming the Hat and Heels realtor, Kate Newey. What's going on?
Hey, Katie, how's it going? Thanks for having me today.
It is going. I'm excited to dig in. How's life? How are you?
I'm great. Life is good. I can't believe it's already the end of 2023. Here we go into next year, and we're busier now than we were in the spring. So life is a roller coaster.
And that's something that like for you is different than for me. Like here it's 50 degrees and I was one of my teammates when I came in just my t-shirt because my jacket was here at the office. She's like, "What are you doing? You're braver than I am." And I'm like, "I know, but like I've got a jacket here. Don't worry." She's got like a fleece on and a vest, So wintertime up your way is a little different than it is down here.
Yeah, Chicago, just a casual 16 degrees outside today. No big deal.
God, that sounds terrible.
Still selling houses though. Here we go.
Hey, you just make it happen. You figure it out. And you're born and raised in Chicago, right?
I am. So I was born downtown Chicago, grew up in the Lincoln Park neighborhood on the north side, like 10 minutes from Wrigley Field, where the Cubs famously play. I met my kindergarten sweetheart / business partner / fiance, soon to be husband, when I was 5 in the suburbs, and just happy to be living and working where we grew up and the community that we know and love so well. And just absolutely wild seeing our friends and family, having kids and going to school, like where we went to school. So we love the community.
For sure. No, it's really cool. And I feel like these days, especially, it's kind of rare to find people that are like from and still live in a place, right? Or have come back to that place. Because I feel like these days people are so transient, right? Like in Houston, where I live now, like I'm not from here. I wasn't born here. So yeah, I just feel like it's rare. So that's cool. I love that. You have like actual community roots that are deep rooted.
It's so great. And Katie, it's been so fun for real estate because not only are we able to help the neighbors that we, grew up on our old block with, because my fiance and partner, Dan, and I, we both grew up on the same street, just 6 blocks apart. So when we're doing our pot buys, when we're, dropping off pies for Thanksgiving, like we're going to these homeowners that have been in this community for 30 plus years. And they remember us from when we were, just 4 or 5 years old. And here we are selling real estate and staying connected with them. And showing them that we still care and love the community. So it's been fun. It's been wild. I have sold houses with teachers that Danny and I went to high school with. And it's that awkward moment, right? Like, oh my gosh, do I call you Mr. So-and-so or do I
know,
call
you? You're like, I'm an adult now, but
yes, I'm an adult and I'm advising you on one of the biggest transactions of your life. Do I call you by your first name or there's still that respect? So it's been a fun ride. Definitely.
I'm sure like internally when you guys are talking about deals, you're like, "Oh, Mr. Smith." And you're like, Tim? No, Mr. Smith. We're going to talk about Mr. Smith.
Yes. So not only teachers, but even my friends, right? So my friends are moving, but then their parents are starting to move. So again, like I said, they've been in their houses in this community for 30, maybe some of them 40 years, and they're ready to either downsize or move down south or move where the grandkids are. So again, here is like my second dad growing up, my, friend's dad. It's like, do I call you Ralph or do I call you Mr. So-and-so? So it's been fun. And we're lucky that we have a really good SOI, sphere of influence, to be able to build our business with. And then, as you know, Instagram has just been great in our business as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, when they tell you that like you need to know the neighborhood and like learn the different houses and like study the market, you're like, oh yeah, I can remember these houses because I know that's where like Bobby lived and that's where da-da-da lived and blah, 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 blah. So that's cool. How did you get into real estate?
So I was in the fitness industry for almost 2 decades, and I was exclusively teaching fitness classes. I specialized in yoga and bar and kickboxing and owned and operated gyms throughout the Midwest for, 16 years. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. So I actually had sold my last gym a year before COVID happened.
Good
My
timing.
perfect timing, divine timing, dear gosh. And I was still teaching at some local fitness studios, part-time. Then COVID happened, everything was shut down. And then, this big, heavy pause in my life happened. My fiance had gotten his real estate license. He was in real estate.
Okay.
So, I was really doing nothing. The gyms were closed. I was making some videos on Instagram for fitness classes, and Dan looked at me and said, "Hey babe, do you want to do our social media? Like, we could really up this presence right now during this time when we can virtually show homes and can't do anything in person." So I wrote a full on, the entrepreneur in me since I was age 2, negotiating my allowance with my parents when I was age 5, right? Like, entrepreneur born and
Yeah.
raised. So naturally I create a pitch deck for, at the time, my partner was on a team. I create a whole pitch deck for his team lead. And I said, "Hey, look, hire me as your social media manager and your brand strategist. And here's what I'm going to do for you." She told me her budget was $600 a month, and I got her to triple her budget and pay me what I felt I was worth. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
great. So I went all in helping her on social media. I fell in love with it. Then she started having me do more marketing for her. And then I just accidentally fell in love with real estate, Katie. So I got licensed, and then Dan and I decided to just start our own team because, again, that entrepreneur in me was like, thank you so much for teaching me what I didn't know. I'm ready to go do my own thing with Dan. So that's the story.
So how do you balance working with a partner? Like, you always hear about husband and wife teams and,
Yep.
boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, well, like whatever it is, but like with a significant other, right? How do you balance like y'all's business?
Yeah. I think it's really important, first of all, if you're working with, a partner, whether it be a boyfriend, fiance, life partner, husband, wife, whatever. I think that you have to clearly define roles. And that's something that we didn't do in the beginning. It was kind of like
Yeah.
we were so excited. We had all this energy, and it was like, yeah, let's go do this. It'll be fun. Let's go do this. And then because we loved spending time together, we would go do all of our showings together. We would go do
Yeah.
all of our listing appointments together. We would go to all the inspections together. And that was great when you're first starting your business and you only have,
Yeah.
3, 4 clients. But then when you're starting to grow your business and then accidentally start to grow a team and get really big really fast, you quickly realize that's not sustainable. So
For sure.
my advice and what we found to be helpful, and we're still working and navigating today, was just really defining the roles. And then not only that, Katie, but also realizing you can define your roles, but it will evolve and change over time. And,
For sure.
we're always told, like, make your list of the things you love and the things you don't love, and then have your partner write the list of the
Yeah.
things he
Yeah.
loves
Yeah.
and the things and then you cross, and then you delegate so no one's doing what they
Yeah.
hate, right? And then you outsource
Highlight, do
the
the thing.
rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And the thing is, that's great. But what we found is, like, we have to do that every year because it keeps evolving. Our business keeps growing, and our wants and our needs as not only business owners, but just as humans are changing. I shared with
Yeah.
you, we're getting married soon. We might want to start a family. What does our business look like if, if I'm a new mom? So what does that day to day look like? And then,
Yeah.
the biggest thing too is you can have pie in the sky goals, but if your partner isn't on the same page, it's going to be really hard to align. So that was
That's
another
huge.
thing. That was a big thing that Dan and I navigated in starting our business together. I'm the big risk taker. Like, I'm like, let's go all in, like, let's do it, fearless. And Dan is my conservative rock, like earthly energy
Yeah.
when I'm like up in the stratosphere, like creating content. Right. So it's good because we balance each other out.
Yeah.
However, it comes to some really serious conversations of, yeah, like, all these numbers and success can be great, right? Like, I want to make 6 figures and let's double it. But what are you really netting at the end of the day? And what are you spending? And then why are you spending it? And I think that was a key question that we've really started to grow our business around. Like, why are we spending this money and what do we ultimately want to build?
Yeah.
Because not everybody wants the same thing,
For
like,
sure.
so
Yeah.
that's been interesting to navigate with a partner, just aligning everything.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. I think you always have a little bit of, you're just better or enjoy things more than someone else does, right? Of everything,
Yep.
right? And so you
Yep.
kind of everything falls into line, but the looking and re-evaluating like what you're doing and what your roles are on a regular basis, or at least an annual basis or something like that, like does make sense. Cause that's like, as you were saying all that, in my mind, I was like, oh yeah. And we had our plan. And then like, as our business evolved and changed, we realized, that we needed to make some adjustments on who was doing what. And then, like as like I, had a kid earlier this year. Yeah, earlier this year, right? And so like those things change it, right? So it's like you have life events change and stuff like that. And so I think the constant reevaluation is so important. And I think like a lot of times we miss out on that. And so like we've had to like actually calendar out time to be like, okay, like we both know kind of like where we're going, but like we need to like reevaluate like what we're doing and like what that looks like so that we don't have overlap.
Yep.
Because I feel like that's when like, miscommunication or frustration comes, is when like I think you're doing something and you're not, right? Or you think I'm doing it and I'm not. So
Yes, absolutely. And then also, a big key thing was the highest and best use of her time, right? So for
yeah.
me, I would love to just keep networking, keep getting the leads coming in, keep making these connections in the community, keep working on growing the pipeline for our business, and then nurturing the clients, the past relationship with clients. Like I don't thrive in the day-to-day operations, but
Yeah.
Dan does. So that was
I hope he
something, and
does.
he does. No, he does. And so actually in my mind, originally when we started working together, I thought, babe, like you need to be out there with me getting the business. Like, let's outsource this. Let's get a transaction coordinator. Let's get an admin. Let's have someone take this off our plate. But what I realized was I was just projecting how I was feeling, and he really does thrive in that. So why would I take that away from him if he doesn't want to be out doing the same things I am? So just, yeah, ever evolving and growing and realizing what really is your highest and best use of your time.
For sure. So interesting kind of segue that you had into real estate, as far as kind of being on the marketing front, right? And then, eventually getting your license. Um, I think that the thing that I've always known you for is like your brand, right? And obviously like the hats and everything,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so like what advice would you give to an agent if they are trying to build their brand? Or I think we see it a lot in like Facebook groups and stuff like that are people like, oh, here's like 14 logos, and they're like, they get very caught up on like, I've got to have the perfect logo and the perfect colors and the perfect this and the perfect that, and it's like, well, just go like start selling real estate and like worry about the stuff that it's important. But like,
Yes.
what advice would you give to someone if like they didn't necessarily have a brand yet, for them to create one?
I think the first advice, number one, is to really hone in on a brand. I think you have to completely get out of the mindset that you have to have a personal account and a business account, because if you're
Yeah.
in real estate, it's both. And so that in and of itself is my first step, because you can't do anything to even start to think about a brand until you really look at holistically, who am I? And you can't compartmentalize who you are. Like you can't have a business page, and this is my opinion, right? But this is my hot take. You can't have a business page over here stressing out about content here, a personal page over here stressing about content over here.
Yeah.
If you want that brand, and the key being, Katie, personal brand. If you want a
Yeah.
personal brand, you have to have it on a personal page. And guess what? That is your business, because when I do silly story posts about, hey, Christmas is in 28 days, guess when I'm going to be doing my Christmas shopping? Probably in 27 days, right? Like that resonates with a lot of people. And I got 3 listing appointments from it, from a conversation that started in the DMs, from the silliest thing on a story. So you being yourself is what's going to attract the people. And then your brand will naturally evolve from there. Katie, I've had so many people come up to me when I've spoken on stages or just at events and said, well, you have hat and heels. Like, that's so cute. Like, what's my hat and heels? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, what is your hat and heels? Like what makes you different, and people originally, or, they tend to go to their hobbies. Well, I like to cook and, I like to work out. Okay, great. I can name like 2 million other people on the planet who like to cook and work out. Like, what about cooking, and like what type of workout? And then you can't be, the last part of this is you can't be everything for everybody. We hear that
Yeah.
all the time. You have to get out of your own ego that you have to try to attract every type of buyer or seller or client. You have to worry about being yourself first. And then from being yourself, will you attract the ideal clients? Then will you start to just naturally get business coming to you, and those come list me phone calls, because people are falling in love with you, not your brand. You can
Yeah.
hire someone to help you with your brand strategy all day long. But like you said, for someone really just starting out, get yourself out of the box is step number one. Brand personal. You are you. You are a human. You are this beautiful
You are
being
the
of
brand.
light who is here on this planet to just spread your uniqueness. You are the brand, right? So get out of the box. And that's really what Hat and Heels is all about. Like, who wears baseball hats and stilettos? Like, it's not a thing. But like, who says you can't? And that's kind of what the brand that I'm building is, and helping other people build and feel confident around being themselves.
Also, going back to kind of like the original point of what you were making, right? Or the original thing you said is you were like, posted this thing about Christmas and being a procrastinator and shopping, right? Is the moral of the story, right? Who's with me here? And you're like, and I got listings from that. I think what most people have difficulty in figuring out is, okay, here I'm making the content, I'm doing it, but I'm not actually getting any business from it. So like where or how have you kind of made that connection that I feel like a lot of people miss on? Does that make sense?
It does.
I hope that resonates what I'm
It
trying to say.
1,000% makes sense. And I have two thoughts. Number one, and I say it all the time, so I feel like a broken record, but we have to remember that social media, if that's where, especially we're talking about showing up right now, social media
Yeah.
is social. You have to be social. It's not just about me, and here's my post all about me. It's here's my journey. You're here to follow along. And maybe there's something in me that resonates in you, and we connect, right? So it's like that moment, like, you love dogs, I love dogs. Like, what's your dog's name? What kind of dog do you have? It's the
Yeah.
most easy segue, like you're just finding that natural human connection. So I think that's a big key point. Number one is just being social. People think I can just post and then the DMs are going to come in. It goes both ways. You can't
Darn.
just post. You have to engage. So it's
Yeah.
the engagement. So forget my stories, right? So it's not only me posting on my own stories. I will get leads and schedule appointments from commenting and posting on other people's stories.
Yeah.
So the first thing you have to do is connect with people on Instagram. Stop just giving people a business card. Be like, hey, by the way, are you on social? Like, let's connect on Instagram. That's my favorite app. I spend a lot of time there. Like, are you a Facebook person? Okay, great. Like, you connect on the app where you both spend time on,
Yeah.
and then you start to follow their journey. So now you're invested in them. It's not just about them following you. You're invested in them. You care about their cat named Puddles who's hiding in the Christmas tree, and you're commenting on that. Like, you care about their dog's birthday, or, Elsa's first birthday party and how freaking cute that cake was. And oh my gosh, who was the baker you hired? That is adorable. I need that for my niece's party. Oh, thank you so much. How's your experience working with her? Okay, cool. I'm going to give her a call. Like, just those little connections and those hyper local touches that you can do to engage. It has nothing to do with what I'm posting, Katie. I'm connecting the time on other people's posts. The thing to remember that people are forgetting is you just have to be a human. We're not in sales. We're literally in service. I have sold nothing in my entire career in real estate. I don't give a what kind of house you buy. I just want you
Yeah.
to be happy, and I just want you to love the experience you have working with me. And I want you to remember, again, I feel like I'm throwing all these cheesy quotes, but people won't remember what you said. People will remember how you made them feel. So, Katie, I just had a phone call this morning. I had a seller client text me and say, Kate, I know I'm in my head. I'm freaking out. I'm actually getting ready for a workout class, so my head is spinning. I'm about to pop in the gym, but should I take down all of my Christmas decorations for the showings coming up next weekend because their house is going live?
Yeah.
And I go, Stephanie, let me give you a call after your workout. So I give her a call. And I say, let me ask you a question. What, out of curiosity, right? What was the number one reason we waited until now to list your home? She goes, well, so we could spend the holidays in our home one last time, have one last season in the holidays. And I go, there's your answer about the Christmas decorations. We literally waited to list your house so that you and your family could enjoy Christmas. You put up as many Christmas decorations as you want. We already took photos back in fall. You are golden and good to go. Like, just because you have a couple extra snowmen on your counter is not going to affect the value of your home. So, Katie, I'm telling you this because, again, it's about how you're making people feel and remembering that you're just dealing with humans, and you just have to be a human. And we forget that, which just blows my mind, So, like, when you're building your brand and you're trying to be authentically you.
Yeah.
people don't even know how to be authentically themselves because they're still trying to be everybody else. You just have to be yourself.
Well, and I think for so many people, like the comments that I see in the posts that I see, it's like, I've been posting on my account every single day for the past 6 months, and like I'm not getting any inquiries of people that want to buy or sell, right? And it's like
Yep.
what you said is the key, right? It's like you're probably not going and engaging with anyone else. You're just putting out content and waiting for people to come to you, right? And
Yep.
if it's the same thing if you're calling expireds, right? Like you're not gonna wait for an expired to call you. Like you have to make that
Right.
contact and you have to make that effort in
Right.
whatever it is that you may be doing.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's such a huge key that people are probably not doing.
Yeah. It's, we're in the relationship business, we're in the long game business, we're in the planting seed business. Like you said, unless you're paying for leads, and like that's how you get your business. But if you want to build a business out of referrals, sphere of influence, and, Instagram or social media, you
Yeah.
have to be social and you have to engage. And it's not all about you. It's not all about you.
So what would be like tactically, right? Do you have like I know like Phil Gertis has like his social media like time where he has like 15 to 30 minutes every day that he goes in every morning and like likes,
Mhm.
comments, engages, does the things because he knows if he doesn't, regiment himself to that time, then he either won't do it or he'll sit on and like doom scroll for hours, right? Do you
Yep.
have like something tactical like that? Or is it more so just like throughout the day you're on social?
So I know Phil. Phil and I have spent some time together. Phil and I are
Yeah.
complete opposites, and we give each
Yeah.
other
No, I mean
crap for it. Yeah. I the answer to your question is no. And here's my reason. What I found for my um, longevity in this business, which is
yeah.
I want to succeed. I want to grow and help other people grow and help other people rise, just like I've risen and learned from, amazing people, like you and other people in the community. But most importantly, I want people to feel like they don't have to have fear around burnout of posting all the time, of
Yeah.
creating content all the time. And I really, truly believe that that served me well, and I'm going to keep doing it until it doesn't. So the fact that Phil's personality needs that in a schedule works for Phil. It doesn't work for Kate. And the reason it
Yeah.
doesn't work for Kate, as I'm awkwardly talking about myself in the third person, the reason it doesn't work for me is because well, first of all, do you know anything about astrology? Are you like an astrology person? Probably not. You're like a very logical person, I feel like. I feel like
Oh yeah,
you would.
yeah. Not
What do you
not a
know about
ton.
astrology,
Like
Katie? Okay, great. Okay, great.
yeah,
So,
not a significant amount, but you must not have seen my video of not knowing how many full moons there are in a year. But anyways, we can
no, I
yeah.
didn't. That's hysterical.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh.
So we can
Well,
unpack that later. That doesn't need to
yes.
be something that we unpack again that I got like torn up and got DMs from people just, completely making
Oh
fun of me. But
my
anyways,
gosh.
if you're an astrology person, tell me more about your thought.
Well, I will just summarize, and this gets back to why I do things a little differently than Phil. So there's so many parts of your birth chart. It's basically like a blueprint of what the stars and planets look like in the sky when you're born. Okay. Like, so that is
Okay.
science. Now, the woo woo part of that is like
I was like, all right, that's
yeah. But the woo woo part is where your planets are and what does that mean? So, like, I have my sun in Libra and I have my moon in Libra. So, I'm a double Libra. Okay. Libras
love
are
that.
known for balancing. Great. Okay. Like hat, heels, right? Duality. However, Libras are also known for not being able to be consistent and make a decision very quickly. So, what I've
Okay.
had to pull from other aspects is like the fiery parts of my chart. So, like, for example, and this is the last one I'll give you, I'm a Sagittarius rising, meaning the constellation that was on the horizon when I was born that was rising was Sagittarius. That's my fire. That's my energy. That's my go, go, go. That's my outgoing personality that seems outgoing to everyone when I'm really an introvert. What this has to do with your question about Phil is this. When I try to keep to an exact schedule, my soul and everything inside of me and my creativeness feels like it's dying. And I feel like I have to do something and I begin to kind of hate it and I get that burnout. So, for
Yeah.
that reason, when I am feeling inspired and when I am feeling on a peak, and Katie, it may or may not have to do with the full moon cycle, but again, we'll have another conversation about
We
that
can
later.
yeah, I
Yes.
feel like this would be a very long conversation, so we'll unpack that
But
on another
but
day.
when I'm feeling more creative,
Yeah.
I get my boosts, and Katie, I get more done when I'm feeling creative in that time than I would if I were to try to do 15, 20 minutes a day, because I can just get so much done. So really the long story short to your question about, the fill thing is, no, I really
Yeah.
don't. And people ask me all the time, and it sounds loosey goosey, but for me, in order not to get burned out, I just do it when I feel inspired and when it feels authentic. And I'm not that type of like ABC regimented
No,
person.
and here's the thing, and that's completely fine, right? Like, hey, what do you do? Phil having
Yes,
the answer, you having the answer, me having the answer, so and so having the answer, like all of that's
exactly.
completely fine. It's just interesting to me for people that I know are considered to be content creators or people that are good marketers and do these things. Like you have to have some sort of science or art or whatever it may be, right? And
Yes,
yours is like, hey, when I'm in a flow state, when I'm in a creative mind, when I have these
yes,
things, like I'm gonna just go crush, right? And like obviously there's engagement. You see notifications and stuff at other times and dates, right? Um
yes.
and sidebar on Phil, his thing for 2023 was for him to post a short form video, a vertical video every single day of the year throughout the entire year. And I recently, when did I see him last? I saw him in October last, and I was making fun of him because that's just what we do. That's how we show love, right? And so I was
Yep,
making fun of him, and he was like, "You know what? Like, if I had to do it over, like, like, I probably wouldn't have done this because he's like, it's just so freaking like overwhelming because it was like midday, close to the end of the day. He's like, oh shit, I haven't posted yet. Like, God,
yep,
I've got to do this. Like, and
yep.
he's like, it added so much more pressure, right? When he's batching a lot of content, he's creating a lot of content, he's doing these things, but then it's like,
Yes,
oh fuck, I haven't posted yet, because he's
yes.
not using like any systems or he's not auto posting, he's doing them all himself manually. So
Yeah.
anyways.
And Katie, well, what you said is so important too. Not only is Phil competing with nobody else other than himself, like he is literally setting the bar for himself.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you know what I mean? He's not worried about anybody else. So if you're just starting, like your goal is going to be 1 to 2, maybe a week,
Yeah.
whereas like yours or mine might be like, okay, I got to crank it up to like 1 or 2 a day, like
Yeah.
I got to get off the 3 to 4 times a week. We can boost it or whatever. You can't compare yourself to where anybody else is at in their journey. So I think that's really important too.
Well, and you, I know, work with like a video team, like as far as
Mhm.
video content. So like in looking at your profile, like there's definitely a lot of stuff that like you're shooting yourself, that you're either talking direct to camera or it's whatever, right? Like, but then you also have a video team that you work with too, right? Like that's been your like kind of leverage as
Yep,
you've
that was
increased.
yeah, and that is really what I attribute to 50% of my business coming directly from Instagram, is because people relate to these goofy videos that I make, and I just tell stories, and there's a couple pro tips in there here and there, but nobody really cares about those. Like if I do a pro tip, I make it ridiculous or give a humor aspect to it.
Yeah.
But people just really like the stories about, the garage door opener. Like that one went viral with over, I don't even remember the number, but I mean, these have gotten like tens of thousands of views. And not only the
Yeah.
views, but what's important is the engagement. So just the
Yeah.
comment
The
section, the
comments and the
comments.
DMs. Yeah.
And again, you know what else I hear a lot, Katie, from realtors is, well, only other realtors are following me. I'm like, all right, well, let's talk about a whole nother pillar of your business, which is agent to agent referrals. You could be
Yeah.
leveraging that. But if you only have realtors following you, how are you going to fix that? Go out in your community, go join a golf course, go join a country club, go do, a cooking class on a Thursday night, just meet people and just start building up your local people that you're connected to on Instagram and just start having these conversations.
It's interesting. Someone that I was speaking to the other day, and now I can't remember who it was, but it's fine. I know the point of my story here. Is they were creating super hyper local content on like what was happening in the news in their area. Rebecca out of Tacoma, Seattle area in Washington, right? So she did this thing on like rental laws, right? And like she like everyone's commenting on it and all this stuff, and like her local reach, say she had 10% local followers, it
Mhm.
bumped up to like 15 or 20. Like she got 5,000 new followers that were all local, right?
Wow.
Like, and she did another video on something else that was super local and like got more followers that were all super local. And so I think
Yes.
that realtors often, we get into this vacuum, right, of like, I comment on your thing, we like each other's stuff, and so you get in this thing of like, oh, I'm getting these like dopamine hits of like, realtors liking my stuff, so I'm gonna make more stuff for them, right? And like, agent referrals are great, right?
Yep.
But like that hyper local content and those things that are going to attract the people in your market, I think, are the ones that will always win in my mind.
Absolutely. And that's something that with our videographer, we're going to start doing those hyper local neighborhood tours. We tested out a couple and they went great. And we're just gonna keep doing that. Like Instagram was my thing. I didn't even touch TikTok. I didn't even touch YouTube. So now as we start to grow, that's definitely the next thing to dive into because yeah, I mean, having a videographer for me and how I want to run my business was so important. And it was my first hire that our first big expense,
Yeah.
and I've had him on retainer ever since and don't regret it. Batch, just like you, like it, once a month, like get all my reels short form done, bring a couple changes of clothes and boom, like
Yeah.
once a month and I'm done. And then if I need him for something extra, we work that out.
Did you scale up on that? Like, cause I knew like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to like, just go all in on it. And like, so I feel as if like I always tell people like, okay, start out and do 2 videos at a time, then do 5 videos at a time. And then, whatever, like, do you have any advice for like batching content? Cause like after you've
Yeah.
done it, it was your first hire, you've been doing it for a while. Like it's like second nature. You're like, oh, here are my 4 outfits. Here's a different pair of shoes. Here's a hat. Here's this, here's that. Let's go.
Yep.
If I have never batched content before and I'm like scared shitless, what advice would you give me?
Okay. If you've never batched content before and you're scared shitless, start with one outfit. Don't even worry about the outfit change because nobody really cares. That's just your own ego that's like, I have to look different in every video. Like, no one cares. Okay. They
People
will
are
binge
going to
watch
see
your
that it was
stuff.
shot on the same day.
No, they will. No one cares. So if you're nervous, take that off your plate. That's number one piece of advice. Number 2 is hire a videographer that you feel comfortable with. Interview a few. Like, don't be afraid to hire the hungry videographer straight out of school who has no experience, but is so hungry and excited and passionate and will have a relationship with you. That was where the magic came in for me. And that's where I think a lot of people, have that fear and that anxiety around quote batching content is, well, I don't have
Yeah.
enough stuff to talk about. Well, there's so many tips and tricks, and I know you have so many up your sleeve, Katie, but my biggest one is anytime something happens in real estate, something funny, something someone asked you that someone else might want to know about, or just something really bizarre or something that someone else can relate to, write it down in a note on your phone. And then I take my phone and I hand it to my videographer and I go, prompt me.
Yeah.
And it jogs my memory. And then I just start telling stories and I just start talking about it. And then the key for when you're first starting is you don't have to be perfect. That's why you hire a videographer and hopefully a good editor. For me, it's the same person. But she takes out the ands and the ums, and it's not
Yeah.
perfect. I'll stop and take a sip of coffee, or I'll fix my shirt, or I'll have
You're
to
like, what was I
sneeze.
saying?
And
Yeah.
right, or yeah, and she totally edits and makes it look brilliant and then keeps it branded to my personality, which is, a little bit goofy. So she just knows how to brand me and how to edit me. So I think that's a big thing, is just like finding a good videographer that you just vibe with and you can have it's like a chemistry. It's like a matchmaking process with your videographer. You have to vibe with them. Would you agree?
No, for sure. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's like, I've worked with my videographer since 2019, right? And so like his personality and mine, like we get each other, right? And so it's a lot different when I shoot with him versus when my agents shoot with him. And so like my last time one of my agents did a batch day, I hopped in with her, right? So I could coach her through and do the things you're saying that your videographer does with you. And she's like, oh, like that was way easier, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I think that that's huge. And having someone that understands the vision of what you want, right? A lot of times people don't always have the same vision or the same, whatever it may be, right? And so that's where sometimes I see difficulty.
Yeah. And Katie, the last tip I would give for people that are starting to shoot content or to batch is
Yeah.
have your videographer or whoever is filming you start with a couple icebreaker questions. Like put the real estate stuff aside for a second and just be a human, which is why people are really hiring you anyway, because they just like you, right?
Yeah.
So just be yourself. Have them prompt you the goofiest questions. Have them Google some icebreaker questions or, like, okay, apple or pumpkin pie, just the dumbest things. And then who knows, it could be like
Apple,
the
obviously.
best. Yeah, obviously. Thank you. But, Like, it could be the dumbest thing, but it could be what really resonates and gets you that ideal client, and it might not have anything to do with real estate. So, that's something that really helped me, especially in the beginning, and we still do it to this
Yeah.
day, just so I can get a variety of content to put out there, and get people to, already know who I am before we start working together.
I love it. I love it. Lots of good takeaways and nuggets as far as content creation and marketing and branding. I love your perspective on things. All right, I'm gonna hit you with one additional question, one last question, and
Okay.
it is: if it were your last meal on Earth, what would you be dining on?
I would be dining on well, first of all, I'd be dining on a beach. Has anyone ever answered this way? Like, I'd be dining on a beach, picnic style,
Okay.
with some meditation cushions and a blanket. Okay, so that's
All
the
right.
setting. That's the set and
Yeah.
setting.
All right.
And then
I'm
what I
I'm
would
there.
be
I'm there.
okay,
Nice and
great. And
warm,
then what
not
I would
too
eat
hot. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a light, cool breeze, the sound of the
Yep.
waves
Yep.
in the background. And what I'd be eating is like piping hot pizza with cheese just like melting and like honey on the pizza. Have you ever had honey on pizza? It's delicious.
So just rewind a little bit.
Yes.
The pizza, is it like New York style, Chicago style?
Okay, so Chicago style, are we talking like deep dish?
That's what yeah, like, is it a
Yeah,
deep dish?
no, 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 no Chicago deep dish
'Cause that
style. We're
doesn't seem like
talking like
very great for being on the beach. I'm just
no, no, I'm talking like flatbread style, like
yeah, okay,
like
heard.
wood burning oven,
Yeah,
like just came right out of
understood.
this oven. Mhm.
Yep.
And then like light, kind of like a sweeter sauce on the tomato side, little sweet, and then like, the honey, and then you got to have your salty, so then we have some sort of meat on there. I mean,
Yep.
delicious. Yeah, that's it. Pizza all day every day.
So I've had a lot of people give me very specific meals, as far as like, I'd have my app from this place and my wine from this place and my cocktail from
Great.
this place and blah, 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 blah,
Great.
blah, right? I've never had that much detail down to like, how you feel and the exact setting and what you'd be sitting on. So I love that and I appreciate that. That one's going in the archives.
Love it.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone doesn't already follow you, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Instagram, Hat and Heels Realtor. Let's go. I'm on Facebook too, but I hang out and spend most of my time on Instagram. Put the best
Yeah.
content there. So
Yeah.
it's
Don't we all?
Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. Good deal. Well, I very much appreciate you. Thank you for the astrology lesson, and obviously all of the wonderful real estate knowledge as well. I liked that more. But thank you for both. Very much appreciated.
My
And I
pleasure.
look forward to seeing you sometime soon.
Thank you, Katie Day. Have a beautiful day.